Just a reminder to vote in this week's Locals poll, where you decide what deck I take to Locals every single week. Without any further ado, I hope you enjoyed the video. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and for today we've got the deck profile for the deck that won this past week's Locals poll, being Vendread. I had to do online matches since I had to work this past week due to the upcoming holidays and whatnot. We weren't able to clutch a win, unfortunately. But, you know, it is what it is. Here's what it looks like on paper, then we'll get to the card by card. Alright, so starting off with the monsters, we have 2 copies of Scar of the Vendread. So this one, when it's sent to the grave, you can add a Vendread spell or trap from your deck to hand, and then it revives itself when another monster is tributed by banishing a zombie from your grave. Next, we have 3 copies of Vendread Revenants. So this one doesn't really do anything by itself, but it does give a ritual monster that uses this card on the field as material the ability to, once per turn, quick effect, banish one opponent's special summon monster. So we have ways of just pulling this from the deck that we'll get to later, so that way we can get the full bonus. In the same kind of vein, we have Vendread Houndhorde. It does the exact same thing as Revenants, except that it's a spell or trap banish rather than a monster. And this one actually can special summon itself from the graveyard by discarding a Vendread card from your hand. Next, 1 copy of Vendread Striges. This one is just to make an extra body on the field. So basically, if it's sent to the grave, you can reveal a Vendread card in your hand to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. And it does have a bonus effect when a ritual monster is summoned using this as material, but that never comes up, because we basically just use this as link material. Next, we've got 1 Vendread Core and 1 Vendread Anima. Anima is only used for its grave effect, which is where you can banish it from your graveyard, and then target a banished Vendread monster and special summon it. So that actually lets you get back some of your ritual material that's been banished. The Vendread Core, it can revive itself by banishing a zombie monster from your grave, and it grants targeting protection to a ritual monster that uses it as material. And we'll get to why that's important later. Next, for the non-Vendread monsters, 1 Plague Spreader Zombie. This one, it can revive itself from the graveyard, so if we discard it with an effect, it doesn't really matter, because it can just bring itself back. We can access some of the synchros you saw in the extra deck if we need to, or it can also be used to make the rank 2 monster. And finally, rounding out the monsters, or well, the regular monsters rather, we have Dark Necromancer, running 3 of this guy. Basically, he is just a generic zombie ritual support card, where you can send, or well, it's Fiend or Zombie, but you can send a Fiend or Zombie ritual from your hand or deck to grave, to then add a ritual spell from deck to hand. And then if it gets banished, you can target one of your banished level 4 lower Fiend or Zombie monsters and special summon it. He can target himself. So one of my favorite things to do is, like, as soon as my main phase goes, right, I activate Allure of Darkness. If he's in hand, draw 2, banish him, activate his effect, special summon him back. Then I get that, you know, the free resources without committing a normal summon. So that's kind of nice there. Next, moving on to the ritual monsters. So first we have Vendread Executor. This one is my favorite one of the whole bunch, just because of the artwork. I think it's really cool. Basically, it's treated as Vendread Slayer while on the field, and that's important for something we'll get to later. And basically, this is the only card that your opponent can target with card effects. Now, if you remember, Vendread Core, when used for a ritual summon, makes it to where the summoned monster cannot be targeted. So if you go Core with, say, Revenant, Hound Horde plus Core to make 8, and ritual summon this guy, then your opponent can't target any cards on your side of the field with card effects. That's really, really nice. And then if it gets destroyed by a card effect or by battle, you can add a Vendread card from your deck to your hand. Next, we have one Vendread Scavenger. We basically just run this one for access to pre-prep. Though it is somewhat useful if you can get it out. It wouldn't be your first choice. If you were given the choice between the two, you would obviously go for Executor instead, just because of that targeting protection. But it does have a quick effect where you contribute another zombie monster to gain its attack points during the main phase, and then it can revive itself back if you have Vendread Slayer, which this one is also treated as. But like I said, it's mainly just used for the pre-prep search. Next, one Vendread Battlelord. This one is basically kind of a backup plan if you can't get the Slayer or any of your other rituals, then you have this. It's also just an extra target for Dark Necromancer. It does have an effect, but it doesn't really come up that much because most of the time we're choosing to summon something else besides it. But like I said, it's another target for Dark Necromancer, and you can also banish it with Allure. 2 copies of Vendread Slayer. This is, of course, kind of your main go-to for the rituals. I mean, if you can get the Slayer or Executor, that's even better, but a lot of times it ends up being Slayer. Next, starting the spells. 3 Vendread Charge. This one is basically an E-Telly for the deck. That's basically what it does. 2 copies of Vendread Knights. I'm going to bump this up to 3, actually, because I'm going to cut one card out that really underperformed. But basically, you discard a card to search for a Vendread. That's basically it. It does have another effect, but that barely comes up. 2 Pre-Preparation of Rites. I'm also going to bump this up to 3 as well. But it searches, a ritual spell and then a monster whose card text mentions that ritual spell. We also have Vendread Origin. So we have this for the Vendread Slayer, and then this for the Scavenger. So yeah, both of these are searchable with pre-prep. This one can prevent a Vendread Slayer from being destroyed by banishing it, and this one special summons one from the deck and then ritual summons. So that's how we can get the Revenants from the deck to the field, or whatever material you need. 3 copies of Allure of Darkness for non-once per turn draw power. 1 Reasoning and Monster Reborn just for extra bodies. And finally, the spell that we're going to cut, Pot of Extravagance. So this card, in my opinion, really underperformed. Just not being able to draw the rest of the turn. Because it really seemed like every time I would activate it, I would draw Allure off of it, and then I couldn't use it. So that restriction, I think, is enough to cut it. I'm going to go for, the 3rd pre-prep, the 3rd field spell, and then I'm also going to try 1-for-1 in the deck as well. Just so that way we can just special core right out of the deck. And then finally, rounding out the main deck, we got 1 Vendread Reorigin. Basically, we just tribute an opponent's monster that has a level and summon a token with the same level. So we're able to get rid of problematic monsters. Next, moving on to the extra deck. This portion is going to be quick. We have 3 copies of a Vendread Savior. Just takes 2 zombies to make. He's treated as Vendread Slayer, and then he can dump a zombie during damage calc to lower your opponent's monster's attack, and he can also, once per turn, add a Vendread card back from your grave to your hand. Next, I'm just going to go through the names of the monsters. I'm not actually going to read the effects because for the most part, they don't really even matter because they mainly serve as extravagance fodder. We got 1 Crumble Logos, 2 Shadow Lich, 2 Pilgrim Reaper, 2 Wallow. I love this card. 1 Zombie Stein, 1 Lancelot, 1 Immortal Dragon, and then 2 Skeletal Dragon Felgrand. These are just all generic zombie monsters. But I might change up some of the ratios too, just since we're going to be doing away with the Pot of Extravagance. I might actually just try to just bring in some more generic zombie monsters. Like, I might do the Red Eyes Zombie Dragon line as well. Because let's face it, those aren't really related to the Red Eyes archetype at all. So it's fair game in my opinion. But that's it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, vote in the locals poll, that good stuff. And I'll see you next time.